boy! Welcome back to the channel, all you cyberpunks and retro nerds out there. I'm your host, Tommy the Hammer. Today we're going to be checking out an old school video game of sorts called Dragon's Lair. First time I ever played this game was way back in the day, in the late 1980s. We had a arcade in town called Funsville, USA. And this arcade was the first place I ever experienced Golden Axe, Street Fighter II Championship Edition, Rampage. That place seemed to have it all. And one day when I was there, I happened to notice this one game called Dragon's Lair, and it appeared to be a cartoon that was actually controlled by the player. I was definitely interested when I first saw this, and then years later I come to find out that prolific animator Don Bluth was the man behind this game. If you're not familiar with his work, he used to be with Walt Disney and then eventually moved on to his own films like The Secret of NIMH, The Land Before Time, All Dogs Go to Heaven. The man has done some amazing kid movies throughout his entire career. So, recently I acquired a copy of Dragon's Lair on DVD, and yeah, you can actually play the game on the DVD. It's a real simple premise. Basically, you hit a direction, and if you hit the correct one, you get to proceed to the next scene. So it's a simple enough game. I haven't played it in many years, so I'm really itching to check it out again. I'm gonna drink this beer, pop this into the old PS4. You guys get to check out the old school commercial, and when we get back, you're gonna know my opinion on Dragon's Lair.
Advanced video game you can play is awaiting your discovery at Showbiz Pizza Place. The princess is held captive, and only the brave knight, Dirk the Daring, can save her. With sophisticated laserdisc animation, you'll move Dirk through the innumerable dangers of the enchanted castle to rescue the beautiful princess. Dragon's Lair, the supreme adventure in video games, brand new at Showbiz Pizza Place.
Okay, first and foremost, guys, I just want to go on record and say that the game Dragon's Lair, in my humble opinion, is definitely ahead of its time. Video games back then were very straightforward. There were things like, Galaga and Pac-Man. So when you saw, the game Dragon's Lair in arcades, you were kind of blown away because, kids were actually playing a movie, a cartoon. The first time I saw the game Dragon's Lair, I didn't understand how the player was controlling this cartoon character. And it's not until you actually play the game that you fully understand how it's executed. Depending on how you, pick the direction or the action can really decipher how far along you get in the story. And it's kind of like a point and click or choose your own fate story. And I think that's immensely original, especially, for the time period. Back in the day, this was immensely ambitious for everyone involved, everyone that, creatively developed this title. In essence, you're just kind of pushing along, the visual narrative by picking the right direction. And that might be, kind of off-putting for, some video game enthusiasts. They might come into Dragon's Lair and be like, what the hell is this shit? But for me, a fan of Don Bluth and animation and 1980s fantasy cartoons, I think this is pitch perfect. I love Dragon's Lair. I love Don Bluth's overall art style. I like how he, kind of brought something different and new to the animation scene of the early 1980s, especially after he parted ways with Walt Disney. His animation style was in strict contrast. A lot of the characters were a little more rough and ragged. The overall art style really emphasized the sketch lines and all the characters, and to me, it really embodied the 1980s. So I love Dragon's Lair. I think this is a terrific game. So with all that being said, playing this game on my PS4 really was kind of a hard experience, mainly because the PS4 remote doesn't act as an old school DVD remote, and the direction pad, holding it like a controller, didn't control the character of Dirk the way I wanted it to. As a matter of fact, I was downright confused on how to progress the game with the PS4 remote, and I got real frustrated and just decided to go into the DVD's extras and played the game as a movie. That's one thing I can say about this DVD release, is if you don't want to play Dragon's Lair as a game, you can actually hit the play button and watch the game, being played successfully from beginning to end. And, for a person like me that's a huge fan of Don Bluth's overall art style, that was a treat. I got to sit back and watch Dragon's Lair from beginning to end problem-free. And then after that, there's a plethora of extras, including interviews with the man himself, Don Bluth, and, kind of checking out the scene of the early 1980s and what this game meant to people that were frequenting arcades during that early time period. But at the end of the day, guys, I gotta give this a star rating, and, based on the concept of video game itself, does this game pass as a traditional video game? No, it does not. In that sense, it fails. This isn't a run and gun, this isn't a bullet hell, this isn't a puzzle game, it's not a hack and slash or a platformer or even a 3D platformer. This is an animated story presented to you guys, the audience, like a cartoon. If you're a fan of Don Bluth, if you like his movies, and you're interested in this little piece of history, this little piece of early 1980s arcade history, then definitely check it out. It's well worth your time. And if you're collecting Don Bluth's movies, then it's definitely well worth obtaining in your collection. So with all that being said, guys, out of 10 stars, I could give the game Dragon's Lair a solid 7 out of 10.